So Westwood Instruments has sent me a few of their libraries in the past that you've seen on this channel if you've watched it before, and I'm always struck by how unique their approach is to sampling. Nothing is ever straightforward, nothing is ever simple. It always pushes the instrument further than you'd think it would go and experiments with sonic adventures and unique takes on things. They sent me the Alt Grand library recently, and after playing with it for a bit, I realized that this library is just the same. In fact, I would go so far as to say that this isn't really a piano library at all, because it kind of puts a disservice to all the other sounds and experimentations that are going along in there. So stay with me, let's dive in, take a look, and I'll explain why I think that. Hey, my name is Steve and welcome back to Command Shift New. Right, let's dive straight into the library and check this one out, but do make sure you stick around to the end because one of the last features I'll share is pretty cool and pretty special to these libraries. So when we open up Alt Grand, we can take a look and see that it's structured very similar to some of the other Alt series and like the Rotocello and those sorts of things. It's got a very similar sort of familiar layout to the interface, which makes it much easier if you've ever used any of their instruments before. Now, of course, this is a piano, it has a piano sound, and this is what it sounds like just loading it up straight out of the box with the natural piano preset. Now, I've used a lot of different pianos in my time. There are so many piano libraries out there, and this one is a little bit brighter than I usually kind of go for, but I actually found that one simple quick click changed that for me entirely. If I come down into the effects section, so we're on the home screen at the moment, if I come over to effects, there's an option for it sampled with open or sampled with closed lid, and I find switching over to closed lid gives it a much more mellow sound. And of course, it wouldn't be a piano library if you couldn't turn on felt piano, of course. But this library does it kind of in an interesting way. It has a slider for finding a point somewhere between full felt and full not felt. Over on the home screen, if I muck about with this felt slider, I can slide it up as I'm playing the notes. So it has a really gorgeous felt sound, which of course is a staple in all sorts of film score, but also just anything that you want a nice delicate sound for, it's there. And of course, I love the fact that they've got all of their mixers in here. So if I want to add a little bit more intimate detail, for example, I could blend up the closed mic here. A beautiful, rich, deep sound, which is great. So it definitely is a piano library, but it can do so much more than that. Just to start us off, if we dive further into effects and look at what that can do, there's so much more in there to play with. If we click on the effects menu, all of these just add so much more to the piano. First of all, I love this in their other libraries where you can transpose the pitch. So you're basically using samples that have been detuned by a certain number of semitones, let's say the full range here, 12, like a full octave, so that it gives it a very unusual and interesting quality. It almost gives it this warped and interesting type flavor, and if you add in things like the tape, really kind of go to town, age that up a little bit, you can even detune the samples, give it this kind of warped old piano type sound, then you get something like this. That's just really cool and really unusual. And then we can throw it into some space as well. We've got reverb, which is, sitting as it's normally at the moment in studio reverb. But if I can choose something like horizons, which is much, bigger space, longer decay, and maybe add some stereo width to this thing. Let's throw in some delay. Let's add some tape delay there. Maybe in triplet eighths, for example. Let's lower the mix a little bit. Don't need it too bright or too loud. So all manner of warped sounds that's pushing it further away from your typical kind of piano library. But that's not all that just makes it like a not piano library in my mind. It's the fact that we're playing with one sample set, and there are so many more to play with. You probably saw on the front page here under home, there's loads of these textures. And if I go across to page 2, there's even more. There's just so many different textures in this library. And these are textures made by resampling, reworldizing, processing through synthesizers and effects and all sorts of manner of things to create entirely new expressions of the piano. So all these weird warping and cool sounds that of course are thrown into the library for you as well. And all of that was with all of these effects on. If I just load this library bland again from the beginning, then some of those textures are obviously unaffected by the effects that I had before. There's just so many flavors in this library. And to give you even more, it's like they've got 2 layers to every one of these tiles. And that's because of this texture slider here. As I slide up on a texture, it morphs it into something entirely different. And every one of those textures has that blend in there, so you can morph and modulate the texture further. It's also set up with MIDI CC21, so you can automatically go for that. But that brings a lot more performance and cool textures to the sound. Each one of these as well, when you click on a tile, you've got a little edit button. And in here, you could edit the dynamics to be controllable by the mod wheel rather than by how hard you hit the key or velocity. If I set that, for example, and close that out, then I can now use this dynamic control, which is on my keyboard, and I can move that up and down to control just how loud these textures are. I could of course pair that with controlling my MIDI CC on the texture knob. You could get some really crazy and intricate and interesting sort of textural designs in there. And if that's not enough, where every tile has a second texture that you combine with it, this is the really cool feature that I think is really awesome in these libraries. If you hold down the Shift key and click a couple of different tiles, then you're going to be able to blend these together. Let's hold the Shift key and click another texture, maybe this one over here, and you know what, let's just add that one in too. This creates really interesting and unique blends, of course, that are entirely customizable. It's up to you what you want to do with them. And you can go into that edit menu again and you can adjust the level of that. So, you know, how loud it is, so you can balance between the 3 of them to get the right sort of setting. You can adjust the attack so that one comes in a little bit slower than the other, that sort of thing as well. So there's a lot of really cool blending techniques that you can do to create your own textures and your own sounds. I do love a library that gives you that kind of control and depth when you want it. It's easy to whip out the box and just kind of play it, but it's also got a lot of control and a lot of interesting textures to merge together, something that I can make sound like my own, sound like something that nobody else is using. But of course, if you just want it easy peasy, you just want to load up a cool sound, peruse a few sounds and see what happens, then of course you've got presets for that too. We can load up a bunch of different presets. They've got the default piano sort of sounds, so like the felt or the natural piano, and you can dive into different piano mixes. So if I click on one of these, for example, this, I recorded it on my phone, sounds really interesting. So I love how that sounds, and you know, it's using the far mic, the room mic, to be able to, you know, make it sound like the instrument's on the other side of the room. You've set your phone down somewhere, it's got the hiss and the background noise. So if it's something that you're wanting to replicate, you don't have to go do that. You can just, you know, do it here. But of course, you've got lots of different presets to use, and some of them are textures. So you can go dive into any of these different textures. And you can, of course, use the little side arrows to scroll through and find other sounds. I haven't tried that one before. That one sounds beautiful, gorgeous. Then as well, you can dive into textural blends. These are patches that have blends of the different instrument textures in there as well. And of course, if you want it to still sound a little bit more like a piano, just hold down Shift, add the piano in there. So a really beautiful, really flexible library. So I hope you've enjoyed that look. Thank you very much to Westwood Instruments for sending that over for me to kind of play and experiment with. I'll leave a link to the library down below, of course, so you can check it out at your own pace, see if it's something that's right for you. They've got lots of examples on how this library sounds and further descriptions on how to use it and whatnot. So it's all there for you if you need to. Otherwise though, thank you for checking this video out. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I look forward to catching you in the next one.